Um, so with me at this point, I understand my purpose. My purpose is for these people having to humiliate themselves and hope that I'm gonna let them escape. It's never gonna happen. They do everything possible to make me acceptive of this disturbing manipulation. As I said before, as a target individual, they rewire your brain into disgusting ways of thinking. They make you experience nastiness and stimulations and things that are very pedophilia centric. It's nasty. I cannot look at a child without getting disgusting reaction to them because of what they do to me. They force me to react to children in these disturbing ways. It's nasty. And they want you to accept these things. I work with it's funny, I talk to my employer and what they go through. And I'm like, you see how you have to stoop yourself so low. And they've been so humiliated, and you're going to hear reality. And this is why the humiliation is going to be even worse for them. They wanted to paint me as something I'm not. And it's just so obvious they do this manipulation that they're finding ways to try to make me be descriptive of things. And try to say, no, we mapped it, we manipulated, we mapped it, we investigated, and this is how things have, and this is why we figured you out this way, because we were investing in you, and these manipulations are not manipulations, it's just you. We're mapping it. And some of the things they use to try to convince me that I should believe that what they're saying makes sense. They mapped it, and they use different tonality, right? Now, on this side, you're going to hear the obvious pedophilia things they do. They literally say, the target individuals say they do the pedophilia type of torture and all kind of things in regard of like forcing them to get stimulations of some sort, dreams and all that. So the validation is beyond, but there's more validations. That is just like cherries on top of cherry on top of cherry of the humiliation these people have to continuously have to stoop to. I was talking to the funny thing, excuse me, is because it's obvious the reality they're in is something they have to paint together, they have to manipulate. They always try to compensate by showing, you see, I'm such an intellect, I'm so smart. Look, I was like, yes, I know, but you then have to dumb yourself down like this. You imagine me, like, thank God I didn't have to live this way. Because look at how slow you have to stoop. I'm here to humiliate you. You, such an intellect. You, such a smart person. Look how humiliating our life is. Look at how low you have to stoop to block our reality. The cherry on top of everything, when they do the pedophilia type of torture and they try to be like, oh, we're protecting our kids, we're doing this, you find out these entities empowering these bottom feeders, this intelligence community are filled with pedophiles. Filled. One thing they've been doing here, and this is why I made this specific video, when I was like in high school, I was like 16, 17 years old. I remember in the cafeteria, some kids say something and I started laughing. It was super absurd. It was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. It was clever and absurd. And I'm not a sensitive kid. I'm like a 16, 17 typical kid. So this person said this thing. It was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's absurd. But also the way it was, the way they put the words together, even though it was kind of like absurd and of course disturbing, but I looked at it as comical, absurd. Like it's obviously this is something that I have a dark sense of humor. So when especially at that age, I'm 17, 16, I'm like, okay, I'm laughing at it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is too funny. It's like, this is too, because of the absurdness of it all. So always like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna use this joke one day. I'm gonna use this, what I say, I'm gonna use to make fun of somebody. I'm gonna use that in a way to create some laughter or try to make somebody, or like roast somebody. So I was waiting for the day. I was waiting for this moment. Like, I'm gonna use that. This is gonna be. And then one day my friend said something, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna say it now. I was like, oh, and I said that old enough to me, and he just like, he obviously knew that, like, okay, this is not something I usually come up with, which is true. I did not come up with it. It was just, I heard that in high school, and when I'm like 19, 20, finally I'm able to say it. And so Now they try to change it because this is an appropriate joke, right? They try to find ways like, no, you were saying that because you, and they try to make me imagine saying it. It's like, no, this is how I live. She's old enough, like, something like that, which I never say like that. But I've always thought of when I could be saying that to make somebody, like, to get a reaction out of somebody, try to make somebody laugh, or to try to like, roast somebody. And so these people who have to try to find ways to make me subscriptive of things, because now even saying this joke is disturbing, because they force me to experience this disgusting pedophilia things. Even me saying that is, because they make me think about kids in a sexual way. So when something, usually this joke that was meant to be an absurd joke to make somebody laugh or fun, now it's not absurd because I'm forcing to experience disturbing thoughts of children. And they're like, oh, it's funny, huh? It's like, first of all, listen to what you guys are involved in. This over there, this is what you guys do. And by the way, this over there, you guys are actual pedophiles. There's nothing absurd about you. The amount of pedophilia that's ongoing in these entities are unbelievable. When you're here, you made this fun. Oh, wow, you're a 16, 17-year-old. You thought that was funny? Oh, when you're 19 years old, oh, that's funny. You roasted this person like that. Oh my gosh. They're in a program that torture people to think about kids in sexual ways. They torture kids sexually. They hurt kids sexually. They sexually torture children. The entities that empower these bottom feeders are filled with pedophiles. CIA agent doing things to 2-year-old and 6-year-old. This is real world. Somebody saying it's unbelievable the amount of child porn I found on the computers of this government workers in the Pentagon. Is that funny? Delusional trash. And they're like, oh, they're gonna burn this, they're gonna burn him. This trash will torture kids sexually. They're gonna torture him. They are now manipulating my memories to make me imagine saying this thing as like it was a matter of living. I was living like that. That was like I would say that's how I live. Recreating reality. When in reality it was like, oh man, I heard that was funny. Let me see when I can just like, that can be used to make fun of somebody, to make somebody laugh or something like that. And that moment came when I started making fun of my friend, who also used to call me and saying things to me about like, oh, you're so skinny, you look like you have AIDS. This is the kind of like, we're insensitive early 20s, 19-year-old young adults. These people are delusional. And they try to be PC and be like, oh, that's so funny, haha. Listen to what you guys do to children, you darers. Listen to what you guys do to children and women. And guess who's the pedos? Funny, huh? Unbelievable. Reality is something I'll never let them escape.
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, ow, and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture.
They're trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting. Take this whole thing into account so much and make it so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting things. And you saw where I was going with that first word. disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind.
I can be free from this torture. Every day has been a miracle of survival. I also experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and
what I said. Playing with my dog. So that attacks continue. I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children.
Any part of the body. This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal, or it can sort of turn off the
occasion. I was told I was going to be shot in the face, and it was an older guy. He was like really, really disgruntled and pissed off. Yeah, she's going to get shot in the face. You know, sound like an angry ass old person. You know, then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. Don't get shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is with the Voice of Skull, it's a bunch of females.
Able to impose any information on the brain of a person, presumably by some kind of waves, which in the mind take the form of voices, thoughts and images and imagination. In addition to this kind of implanting information that they need, they manipulate the psyche so that the information is written into your memory. Then by stimulating the certain regions in the brain they can retrieve this information and present it as your own memory. This is the conclusion that can be made judging by the influence they have been making on me with their psychotronic weapons, for example artificial thoughts, imagination, and mental torture.
Oh, wow. That's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally. Where are you?
Well, don't worry, Stephen. I think a few of them were fired.
Yeah, well, the rest is... That's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally. Where are you?
Well, don't worry, Stephen. I think a few of them were fired.
Yeah, well, the rest is... That's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally, whatever the hell that...
Where do you think you work?
CIA.
That must mean there is such a lack of fearing any sort of accountability. For crying out loud. While on assignment, 1,400? You must have not been doing any job.
Well, even if you had to look at it to make sure you knew what it was, don't you just need to look at one?
Right.
You're like, I better check the other 1,399 just to be safe.
Yes, I better check the other 1,300 labeled tax things.
Unbelievable.
Oh, my goodness.
And the guy with the 6-year-old? Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Twice with the 6-year-old.
Ugh. So and here's the scariest part. Out of the 10 instances that are described in the report, only one person was ever charged with anything.
Yeah.
With anything. Comment below. Do you guys know this story? This should be catnip for the media, right? Think about it. You've got this lewd behavior. You've got corruption at the highest levels of government, right? Aaron Brockovich, something about fake tits and tap water.
Yeah.
The CIA, raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?
Had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. The CIA did not answer detailed questions, saying only that the agency takes all allegations of possible criminal misconduct committed by personnel seriously. So you're saying the reason why they didn't take this more seriously, why there weren't actual
into court and people talking about
handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites acknowledge viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening for whatever reason with more frequency in our intelligence agencies, or is this something that is more pervasive in the general population than I originally realized? I mean, what's going on here? This is so bizarre. Remember, it's so evil.
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind